Welcome to Infinite Storyverse. Tonight, we invite you into a confession wrapped in velvet shadows and sealed with the soft click of a hotel door. A story not about betrayal, but permission. Not about control, but surrender. What would you do if the man you loved asked to see you touched by someone else? Not because he didn't desire you, but because he wanted to remember what it felt like to watch you burn. This is Emma's story. And once it begins, there's no going back. Chapter 1, The Space Between Us. Welcome to Infinite Storyverse. In this world, desire is not always loud. Sometimes, it waits, silent, patient, buried beneath throw pillows and quiet dinners. This is Emma's story. And it starts in the kind of place where nothing looks broken, until you listen closely. I never thought I'd become the kind of woman who would say yes to something like this. Not the kind of woman who crosses lines, especially not the one drawn in wedding vows. But I suppose the truth is, some lines are meant to be tested. My name is Emma. I'm 32. I've been married to Daniel for 9 years and 4 months. We have a house that smells like fresh linen, with succulents on the windowsill and framed wedding photos that haven't moved in years. Neighbors wave at us like we're a postcard couple. From the outside, we are stability incarnate. On the inside, we are a slowly dimming light. It didn't happen all at once. No explosions. No scandals. Just a slow, almost imperceptible erosion. Like wind over stone. Like silence between two people who once couldn't stop touching each other. Our marriage had slipped into something I couldn't name. Not dead. Just sleepwalking. We were polite. We smiled. We watched shows and passed each other the salt. But the touch was gone. The heat. The unspoken, magnetic pull that once made me burn just from the way he said my name. The kind of touch that makes you forget who you are. That was gone. I used to lie awake wondering if it was me. Had I become boring? Predictable? Had comfort slowly strangled the fire? I didn't know how to bring it up. How do you say I miss being wanted without sounding desperate? How do you confess that you ache for something you can't even describe? And then, one night, it happened. It was a Tuesday, of all things. Daniel poured us wine after dinner. That alone was strange. We hadn't shared wine in months. He handed me a glass and sat across from me at the kitchen island. His posture was calm, but there was something in his eyes, focused, unreadable. I remember the exact way the stem of the glass felt cold against my fingertips. He took a breath. Emma, there's something I've been thinking about, he said, swirling his wine slowly. For a while now. I froze. My first thought, he's going to say it's over. My second, maybe I deserve it. But then, the words that followed weren't what I expected. Have you ever thought about being with someone else? The question landed like a match on dry wood. I blinked. Are you serious? Not cheating, he clarified quickly. Not behind each other's backs. I mean something different. A fantasy. One we share. Together. I laughed, but it sounded off. Tight in my throat. You want me to sleep with someone else? I asked slowly. Yes, he said. I want to see you with another man. My heart slammed against my ribs. I set the wine down, suddenly lightheaded. This wasn't a joke. He was serious. His expression wasn't detached. He looked hungry. Curious. Alive in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even think straight. Why? I finally asked. Daniel didn't flinch. Because I want to see you feel things again. I want to watch. To see you be taken by someone different from me. Someone bold. Someone who can bring something out of you that I've let fade. He said it like it was a gift. There was silence between us for a long time. I stared at him, unsure whether to cry, laugh, or scream. I should have been insulted. offended. But I wasn't. Not entirely. Instead, I was curious. And curiosity, when paired with loneliness, is a dangerous thing. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying his words over and over. I imagined what he meant. I imagined him watching. I imagined being watched. Not because I wanted to betray him, but because I wanted to feel again. To be awakened, ignited, desired in a way that wasn't domestic or polite or half asleep. For the first time in months, I looked at myself in the mirror not as a wife, but as a woman. Still here. Still burning, somewhere under the surface. The next night, I asked him. If I say yes, what happens? He looked at me carefully. Then we plan it safely. We talk. You choose. You stay in control. I'll be there, but I won't interfere. I just want to witness it. And if I say no? He nodded, swallowing. Then we move on. But I'll always wonder. And maybe, so will you. That part scared me the most. Because he was right. A few days later, he showed me a photo on his phone. A man named Malik. Older than us. Tall, confident. Dark-skinned, sharply dressed, with the kind of presence that made you feel seen, even in a still image. Daniel spoke calmly as he explained that Malik was experienced in scenarios like this. He had a friend too. Andre. Another man. Only if you're comfortable, Daniel said. It's just an option. I didn't say yes. Not yet. But I didn't say no either. Instead, I took walks late at night, thinking about things I had never let myself think before. I imagined being touched by someone new. I imagined Daniel's eyes on me while it happened. I imagined how it might feel to surrender, not just to someone else, but to the part of me I had buried. The part that still wanted to be devoured. Chapter 2, A Stranger's Voice in the Dark. Some choices whisper before they roar. And sometimes, the thing that feels forbidden, is the only thing that makes you feel alive. The first time I heard Malik's voice, I was alone in our bedroom with the door shut, hands shaking as I held my phone. Daniel had arranged the call. Not as pressure. Not even as a proposal. He said I didn't have to speak if I didn't want to. I could hang up at any time. I was in control. That phrase, in control, had begun to sound strange in my ears. Was I in control when I felt so completely out of my depth? Or was I only now beginning to reclaim it? I pressed the call button. It rang once. Then, a deep voice, smooth and calm, flowed into my ear like warm smoke. Emma. Just my name. Nothing else. And yet, somehow, it made my skin prickle. Hi, I said, my voice barely audible. Is this Malik? It is, he said, and I heard the smile in his tone. I've been told you have questions. I'll answer anything. No pressure. Just conversation. He didn't flirt. He didn't push. He didn't act like a man who'd been given permission to seduce. He acted like someone who knew the weight of what I was carrying. And that, more than anything, made me want to keep listening. We talked for an hour. About rules. About trust. About the strange, electrifying territory of intimacy when permission becomes performance. He told me about couples who had come to him before, some timid, some eager, most somewhere in between. He talked about respect. About how control could still exist inside surrender. This doesn't have to be about being out of control, he said. It can be about letting go, safely. That word again. Safely. But was there such a thing as a safe unraveling? After I hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time, staring at my reflection in the vanity mirror. I didn't feel like a wife. I didn't feel like a cheater. I felt cracked open. Like something inside me had been unlocked. I was still afraid. But now, I was also awake. 2 days later, I called Malik again. Not to confirm. Just to hear his voice. Just to ask another question. One I hadn't dared to ask Daniel. Why do you think men like my husband want this? Want to see their wives taken? He was quiet for a moment. Because, Emma, when a man watches the woman he loves choose pleasure, real pleasure, it reminds him of everything she is outside of the role he's put her in. It's not humiliation. It's reverence. It's seeing her as complete. Free. His words didn't answer my question. They reframed it. And for the first time I began to understand that this wasn't about Daniel not wanting me. It was about Daniel wanting to watch me want again. I asked for time. I took long showers and stared at the ceiling. I tried to read novels but found myself reading the same paragraph over and over. And then, one morning, I opened my eyes and said it aloud, to no one but the room. I'll do it. That night, I told Daniel. His reaction was quiet. No excitement. No celebration. Just a deep breath and a soft nod. As if he knew I'd reach this point eventually. Then we'll make it safe, he said again. One night. One hotel room. Your rules. No pressure. No expectations. He paused. Malik may bring Andre. Only if you allow it. If at any moment you say no, it stops. No negotiation. No guilt. I stared at him, unsure what I was searching for in his face. Jealousy? Doubt? But all I saw was a strange kind of peace. Are you really okay with this? I asked. He looked at me for a long time. I want to see you come alive again. Even if I'm not the one who does it. Those words didn't hurt. They broke something open in me. The room was booked. Suite 1704, in a quiet hotel downtown. Elegant, neutral, discreet. We wouldn't drive there together. Daniel said it would feel more honest if I arrived alone. He'd already be there, in the adjoining suite. Watching. Waiting. But unseen. It felt like a scene from a novel I would have hidden under my mattress in college. But it wasn't fiction. It was my life now. Chapter 3, Silk and Shadows. There's a moment right before you cross a line where time slows. Not because you're scared, but because you realize the person you were before this is already gone. The city lights blurred through the windshield as I sat in the back seat of the Uber, palms sweating against the silk of my robe. Underneath, I wore the black lace Daniel had chosen with me. Not because he was directing me, but because I'd wanted him to be part of this somehow. The robe clung to my bare skin. My breath came shallow. And somewhere between the rhythm of traffic lights and the low hum of the tires on pavement, I realized I wasn't going to back out. I had crossed the point of no return the moment I said yes. Everything after was just momentum. The hotel stood tall, modern, quiet in a business district that shut down after 7 p.m. There was no one in the lobby except the concierge behind a sleek, minimal desk and a couple checking in with their arms around each other. I walked in alone. No makeup beyond a dark lipstick. No perfume. Just the faint scent of soap and skin. Daniel wasn't in sight. Of course he wasn't. He was already in the adjoining suite. Watching. Waiting. The elevator was painfully slow. I stared at the number, 17, willing the light to climb faster. When the doors finally opened, the hallway smelled of wood polish and air freshener. I walked slowly, heels soundless on the thick carpet, heart thundering in my chest. Room 1704. The number stared back at me like an omen. I paused. Closed my eyes. And slid the key card into the slot. The green light blinked. The door clicked open. The first thing I noticed was the lighting. Warm. Dim like candlelight without the candles. The kind of glow that makes everything look softer, more private. Less real. Malik stood first, He was taller than I expected. Dark skin, close-cropped beard, deep-set eyes that watched rather than stared. He wore a navy button-up, sleeves rolled casually to his elbows. No cologne, but the scent of him, clean, masculine, grounded, was the kind you remember without trying. Andre sat in the armchair, legs apart, one arm stretched over the backrest. Broad. Calm. Watching me like he already knew I wasn't here by mistake. They didn't move toward me. They didn't touch. They just waited. Emma, Malik said, his voice even lower in person. It's good to finally meet you. Likewise, I replied, barely louder than a whisper. There was a bottle of red wine between them. 2 glasses already poured. A third waiting, untouched. You okay? Andre asked. Nervous, I admitted. Malik smiled. Not cocky. Kind. That's allowed. You're in charge here. We follow your lead. I hadn't realized I'd been holding my breath until I finally exhaled. They gave me space. Space to decide. Space to feel the moment, on my terms. I walked slowly to the chair opposite them and sat down, crossing my legs. The silk robe shifted across my thighs. Andre raised his glass. To new experiences, he said softly. I took mine. Sipped. My mouth was dry, but the wine was smooth, quieting the noise in my chest just slightly. There was no small talk. No awkward laughter. Just presence. 3 people in a room. And somewhere behind a door, Daniel. Watching. You look incredible, Malik said, stepping slightly closer. But more than that, you look brave. I wasn't prepared for that. I'd been told I was pretty. That I looked good in black. That I was elegant. But no one had called me brave. Not in a long, long time. Can I sit next to you? He asked. I nodded. He didn't touch me immediately. He just sat, his body warm beside mine, his presence steady and respectful. And then, gently, his fingers brushed mine. I didn't pull away. You're allowed to enjoy this, he whispered. The words cut through me like silk through water. Even with Daniel watching. I looked down at our hands. Felt my pulse in my neck. In my wrists. In places I hadn't felt awake in months. From the corner of my eye, I saw Andre rise. He moved slowly, purposefully, and stood in front of me. Not too close. Just there. Still okay? He asked. Yes, I said. And I meant it. Chapter 4, Undone. There is a moment in every woman's life when she stops pretending. Not because she wants to be wild, but because she's tired of being anything less than real. Andre stood before me, waiting. Not assuming. Not demanding. Just there. Present. Still. His hands rested loosely at his sides, but the power in his body was impossible to ignore. Like a storm that hadn't yet broken. Behind me, Malik's fingers brushed a slow line from my wrist to my elbow. Not possessive, just grounding. I looked between them, 2 men I barely knew, yet somehow trusted. Trusted more than the people who claimed to love me with rules and guilt and should-haves. I reached up and touched Andre's shirt. Soft cotton beneath my fingertips. The rise and fall of his breath just beneath that. He didn't move. Didn't rush. He just let me explore. You don't have to ask, he said softly, voice deep as gravity. But I'll wait as long as you need. That sentence undid something in me. Not the robe. Not my fear. But the version of myself who kept apologizing for wanting. I stood slowly, letting the silk fall away from my shoulders. Not all the way. Not yet. Just enough for the night to change shape. Malik stood behind me now. His hands hovered near my waist, never quite touching. Waiting for breath. Permission. Energy. Can I? He asked against the shell of my ear. I nodded. His fingers brushed the knot at my waist and slowly untied it. The silk slid down like a sigh. Andre's eyes never left mine. There was no greed in his gaze. Only awe. As if he was seeing something he didn't want to rush. Beautiful, he said. One word. But it echoed. The next few moments came not in a blur, but in still frames. Malik's fingers along my spine. Andre's lips at my collarbone. Hands tracing paths like they were learning a map they already knew by heart. And through it all, I felt Daniel. Not physically. But in the way I was finally seen. Because this wasn't just about skin. It was about shedding what the world told me I should be. Wife. Polite. Predictable. Tonight, I was simply Emma. And that was enough. They moved in harmony. One behind me. One in front. No jealousy. No competition. Only synergy. Only rhythm. Only devotion to the moment. When Malik whispered against my neck, it wasn't vulgar. It was reverent. You feel like poetry, he said. I almost laughed. Because how could a night like this be anything but a dream? And yet, it wasn't. It was real. As real as the thrum between my ribs. As real as the trembling in my thighs. As real as the quiet moan that escaped me when Andre's hands met my hips. I didn't look at the camera. But I felt it. Felt Daniel's eyes not as control, but as presence. He chose this. Not because he wanted to give me away. But because he wanted me to be whole. Because he trusted that love can sometimes include surrender. Because he knew that this wasn't about betrayal. It was about coming home to myself. Let go, Malik said into my skin. You don't have to hold anything anymore. So I didn't. I cried. Not from sadness. But from the release. Because after months of feeling numb, of going through motions, of pretending to be okay, I felt again. I felt everything. And when I finally came undone, body, voice, soul, it wasn't in chaos. It was in peace. We lay there afterward, tangled in the silence. The air smelled of skin and heat and something more ancient than lust. Connection. The kind that doesn't need words. Andre's fingers drew circles on my arm. Malik's breath softened at my back. And I felt more seen, more alive, than I had in years. You didn't just survive this, Andre whispered. You claimed it. I smiled through tears. Because he was right. This wasn't just about Daniel. Or the two of them. It was about me. Choosing. Asking. Receiving. Becoming.